This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Morning, Ira. How are you doing, sir? You hanging in there?
Yeah, I am. You know what? I was expecting to be out in LA today. I actually flew home from Portland yesterday with the uncertainty in Los Angeles and getting to arenas. And God bless the Heat and their police escorts and getting around. But I figured you got to kind of be smart. And honestly, even though tonight's game against the Clippers at the Intuit Dome is on, there remains some doubt about Wednesday against the Lakers. ESPN already removed it from their schedule. You know, as you know, Big O in the business, production-wise, you have to get a production team in. You have to have everything ready. If at the last minute something changes, you can't go to plan B. So I am curious to see if this plays out as they hope. Of course, safety for everyone is the major concern. The air quality out there is at the dangerous level right now. You can tell 20-somethings to stay inside, but they're in Los Angeles. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out, both tonight against the Clippers and Wednesday night against the Lakers.
Yeah, we'll see how it ends up working out. Hopefully, I mean, Jesus, what's going on out there is just it's terribly sad, and we can just hope for the best right now. The sports stuff is just a side note. Unfortunately, I will say this: I like how they're playing. You know, I know it's easy competition. But I think for a young Heat team, there's nothing easy, and so they got to. What I love about this, and I kind of tweeted this out, is the rebirth of Heat culture. And what I mean by that is you have everybody on the court that wants to be there, that wants to play hard on both sides of the court, and that's a pleasure to watch. Are they going to go through some really rough patches because they're a young team? Hell yeah, but I'd rather see people that want to be here. I'd rather see players that want to play hard on both sides of the court. And to me, that's what's fun about watching the last couple of nights and watching the young guys and see, hey, let's find out what you got finally.
You know what, Big O? I would put it this way. Temporarily, I agree with you. There is a good vibe on the court. There is a good vibe in the locker room. There is a good vibe away from the game. And then comes Friday. And then everything might change. And this Jimmy thing, the suspension actually accomplished what Andy Ellisberg and Pat Riley and the Arisons wanted. Take the problem away from the team. Let's see what the team can be away from the problem. And it's been good, and it's been good. But this thing is going to come to a head on Friday against the Nuggets if Jimmy is reinstated and also expects to come back as the leading man. Say what you want about Tyler Hero. He is not a two-way great player, but he's becoming a one-way great player with his offensive game. Say what you want about Bam Adebayo, super role player, who also is a great one-way player. The offense is struggling. But the other guys are willing to coalesce and mix in that. Haywood Highsmith, the exact 3-and-D we've been talking about that a team needs to succeed, not the same build as P.J. Tucker, but sort of providing those similar results. Jaime Jaquez Jr., inconsistent minutes, becoming a consistent player. The minutes are opening in the rotation. Nikola Jovic. Whoa, hey, maybe the Heat found another one late in the first round. And then Jimmy comes back. And what do? And I've had people on Twitter and social media tell me Spo should play him off the bench. Spo shouldn't play him. Can you imagine? I mean, we all know. First of all, we've all had kids that we've had to raise and those problems. And this is like, as Eric Spoelstra would say, 10X. I don't know what Spo does. Because, and here's the thing, Big O, I'm going to throw it back to you in a second. The NBA is so different because you only play 5 at a time. There is no sport, including quarterback and football, where the singular star means as much. One great player, Allen Iverson, the perfect example with the Sixers that went to the NBA Finals, showed one player can make a difference. So where should Eric Spoelstra's loyalty and those type of issues reside? With his best player in Jimmy Butler or the 16 other players in that locker room? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens at the end of the week.
Yeah, but, well, first of all, they did what I told you they should do. Suspend his ass, put his ass out on ice, and they did that. Now when they come back, this is what I told you they should do. Put him at the end of the bench. Don't give him any minutes. Tell him,
Do
hey,
you
Jimmy.
want him on the bench? Do you want him on the even in a game? Even that's dangerous, right, Big O?
Ira, I just want whatever is legal to go away. So
Okay.
you come to an understanding, hey, Jimmy, you're done here. We're not playing you. Plus, since we're trying to trade you, we don't want to risk injury. So we're going to put you on ice. So either it's dressed at the end of the bench or he's at home. I don't give a shit. But if I'm the Miami Heat and Eric Spoelstra, I have moved on and I am done. Okay. I'm not going to give him the pleasure of disrupting my team. I'm not going to give him the pleasure of trying to build up his value. I'm not going to give him the pleasure of trying to manipulate the situation like he already has by putting the kibosh out there with all the other teams and trying to direct himself to the Suns by forcing the Heat to take bad deals that they don't want to. So if I'm the Heat, it's time to be a dick.
Okay,
And
here's the deal, and that's fine. And that's fine. And Big O, I am going to allow you in this moment to be Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg and Adam Simon and the rest of the front office. And when Mickey Harrison goes to you, I am not paying someone $500,000 a game not to play. I am paying him $500,000. I want him back on the court. He's going to tell Jimmy that, I believe, on Thursday. There'll be a meeting before this comes to a head. So if you're Pat Riley, and you have your boss, he's the owner, that's the way it is, and he tells you, I'm not paying this guy to sit. Now, it's a different world. So what do you, as Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg and Adam Simon, maybe even Nick Harrison and Eric Spoelstra, what do you say back to the guy who has the money?
very simple. He's been sitting the last 2 years, and we've been paying him anyway. Even when he plays, he's sitting. Even when he's out there, he's disruptive, and he's disruptive to us, not to the opponent. So we've been paying a guy for 2 years and 30-something games to not try in the regular season anyway. So we're going to move on, aren't we? At the end of the year, he's going to move on, isn't he? So let's start moving on right here, and let's find out who we have so we have a better feel at the end of the year who we want to keep and who we want to move forward. So that's what I would tell the owner. Brother, you're a billionaire. You know, Ira, you and I have had this conversation before. Crying poor, it's not a good look.
I don't think it's crying poor. I think it's in any other business. I know it's a different business, Big O. In no other business do you pay someone not to show up for work.
Too bad. Too bad. That in this business you do. In this business, it's happened in sports that you part ways with people, or you got a fat guy in New Orleans that doesn't try, and yet you're stupid enough to give him that extension, and now you're paying the price for it. It happens with Kyrie Irving, who wants to check out and go. It happens all the time in this league. So this is your turn. And see, here's where I don't come from I'm one of the very few people on earth that doesn't come from the hindsight area. I told you 2 years ago, don't give this guy an extension. Your run ended already. You milked it. You maxed it. But you kept trying to capitalize on something that was dying, and now you're paying the price for it. So if I'm Pat Riley and company, I'm telling Mickey Harrison, hey, we all fucked up. Okay? We shouldn't have re-signed this guy. Now we're in a terrible position because we can't trade him. Nobody wants him, and he's trying to manipulate the situation. So let's at least save grace and save Heat culture, and let's keep the 16 guys that actually give a shit about basketball, and they're the guys we're going to move forward with. So let's move forward, and let's leave this other guy who keeps taking shots at us in social media with baristas and crap and all this shit. So, it's time to put your big boy pants on and realize you screwed up. This is the way you're going to have to go about this. That's
Getting paid $500,000 not to go to work. Sign me up, please, Big O. That's the issue I have here, is $500,000 not to go to work. You can say it's Mickey's money, and you can say you have lost money in sports, but this is a salary cap world. So in a salary cap world, you have 30% of your salary cap every night being told to go home. That's the problem. Let's face it, Big O. They are going to come back and play a very good Denver Nuggets team.
I have no sympathy for Mickey Arison. I have no sympathy.
You have sympathy for Eric Spoelstra.
I only have sympathy for Eric Spoelstra.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
For the top two guys. Why? Because I told you. That's it. And if they want, by the way, they can call me and have me as a consultant. They wouldn't have paid for fucking Whiteside. They wouldn't have paid for Dion Waiters. They wouldn't have traded for Kyle Lowry. They wouldn't have re-signed Jimmy. By the way, Mickey, since Ira worries about your money, hire me, buddy. I'll save you a shitload of money.
Or we play the players in Bitcoin, but that's another story for another day. All I'm saying is, Big O, this is a talent.
From ringside, I told you, don't sign his ass. Don't sign his ass. And now you're in here. So now you got to put your big boy pants on. And you got to
when Jimmy Butler wants to play, will you agree with me? When Jimmy wants to play, he's a talented player. Would you agree with that when he wants to play?
But he doesn't want to play, Ira. It's 2+ years of him not wanting to play. It's time for the billionaire not to cry poor, because I'm crying poor. It's time for him to say, the money doesn't mean shit to me. Get the fuck out of here, asshole. That's what I want from my owner. That's it.
But it's a cap-based world.
Get the hell out of my franchise. You don't belong here. We don't want you here. You're not Heat culture. Get out of here. The 16 guys and that coach, that's Heat culture. Now you get out of here. That's what I want.
And you know what, Big O? And I'm fine with that if you also accept the realization that a team without its superstar is going to wind up being a 42-40 team, a 41-41 team that has growth curve, that has a youth movement in place, that could get all these players to another level. I firmly believe inside that locker room, the preference would be, let's keep what we have. Let's grow what we have from within. Let's get rid of the distractions. For years, we've heard nothing from Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and everyone else is you have to eliminate the distractions. I agree with that. However, because as you know, I'm a weak-minded liberal, I also believe in second chances, third chances. I do. And I know you're going to say fourth, fifth, and sixth. And we're back with Steve Howe with the Yankees, and I get all that. But I would try one more time.
Why get on social media a couple days ago and take more fucking shots at the team?
Because that's what players do. And that's when even Pat said in his interview with Dan Le Batard, when he was talking about, I wouldn't do that. But Pat is smart enough to realize the NBA is about branding. Adam Silver loves social media. I spoke to someone in the league the other day, and they said, what's really bothering me is this league is becoming more about tweets and transactions and breaking news and shams and woes than the actual games on the court. And he went back to me and he said, but it's working. Did you see the TV deal? Do you see the interest in the game? So I can see some of that too.
Aren't the ratings down?
But the money's up. But the money is through the roof on the next deal. The money is at pace with the NFL in the new package. So something is working. So what you have to do is turn the blind eye to social media.
What happened was that the TV companies and the platforms realized that if you have emergencies like pandemics and things like that, sports is the only programming that never stops. So sports got a little bit more value actually in the pandemic is what ended up happening.
Yeah, I think so. It's even more.
They found out this is permanent programming. It doesn't matter if you have a fire, it's permanent programming. It doesn't matter if you have a pandemic, it's permanent programming. It doesn't matter if you have inflation, it's permanent programming. It's amazing. And so sports is television proof. And that's what happened. Sports became more valuable as an entity after the pandemic.
Whatever it is has grown along with the social media. I think it grows because it's the only thing you have to watch live. You can't zip through the commercials because you've taped it. If no matter what you're taping it on, you're sitting there, you're actually beholden to the moment. So that you can't zip through the game because most people still watch games live. So I think that's what they've realized. That's one of the few avenues you can keep your advertising. So that works also. The bottom line is let's not be the old man off my lawn. Social media is a huge part of the NBA, maybe more than any other sport. I think the old boys club in football can legislate that against that in the NFL. They can tell you what to wear, what to say, what to believe in, how to voice. The NBA is the liberal sport out there, is more open to player empowerment. So you can't put that back in the box that's out there right now. I don't care what. Jimmy's always done the social media thing. Jimmy, even in the best of heat times, has been out there like that. What I care about is the distractions on the court. That's why I'm so curious about to see what happens on Friday. And you know what, Big O? You will, I will, Pat Riley will, and the fans all will be watching every move by Jimmy Butler. Those that can say a center.
What's the prediction? Because you didn't think that they would suspend him. So what's this prediction this time?
The prediction is he comes back and they try to pretend what suspension, what issues, what comments, what loss of joy, and they try to see at least if it could work. And I think what they're depending on is Jimmy's appreciation. Couple of factors that you mentioned today in the accurate Pembroke Pines report. Number one, keep his value up, show that he has a value not only to a trade partner, but to an extension partner. So he does have skin in this game also.
Do you think they're going to implement him on Friday? That they're going to try to reintroduce him?
Oh, I think it'll be the same as always. And Big O, this is what I'm most curious about, and this is going to be telling to Orlando Alzugaray. When they do the introduction.
A huge mistake. I am watching Jaime Jaquez grow into the Jimmy Butler role.
Not as good.
And Jimmy Butler is a progress stopper for that kid, so I can find out if he's got it or not, because all of a sudden he's doing kind of the poor man's Jimmy stuff for me there.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of I will disagree.
So, Big O, I want to ask you this question. So they go through the announcements, and they announce the lineup, and they announce Hero, and they announce Highsmith, and they announce Bam. And then finally, because I'm sure it'll be the same order, when Michael Biamonte goes a number 22, Jimmy Butler. What I'm telling you is the fans are still going to cheer. And it's going to be a loud ovation.
I think it's going to be mixed. I don't think it's going to be.
That's what I'm curious. That's what Ira Winderman is curious about on Friday at Kaseya Center. How is Jimmy perceived? That will send a signal to Mickey Harrison, Nick Harrison, Pat Riley, and Andy Ellisberg. So Heat fans, if you're listening here in our accurate Pembroke Pines report and you want to vote, not all-star vote, but literally Survivor style, who gets voted off the island, I think it's going to be very interesting to hear the reception that Jimmy Butler gets on Friday when he makes what I believe will be an expected return.
So how about the team? Because
what they say or what they feel. Two different things, Orlando Alzugaray. What they say or what they feel.
Here's what pisses me off, because I've done this job for a long time, and I've done what you do, walking into there and dealing with these people every day and all that. And so these young guys have played 3 pretty cool games. Again, I know the competition isn't anything special, but they're young, they're untested. They're on the road, they're winning all 3 of these games, right? And it should be about them, about them growing, about Jaime Jaquez getting the minutes that he was.
And they're saying that. And Highsmith said it on his walk-off interview, the guys who were here on and off the court. And Tyler Hero said it in his locker interview, the guys who were with us. Look, this is, you know what? There's been so many comments about Jimmy Butler without using the words Jimmy or Butler.
Yeah, that's not fair to these guys. And then they've got to handle and talk about the entire soap opera instead of, hey, man, let's talk about their performance the last 3 nights. Let's talk about the highs and the lows, even in that last game when they were trailing and then they had to come back and all that, little character and all that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the effort that's happening, on the court. And instead, it's not that you're trying to be a dick or anything, but your job, you have to now ask about.
Absolutely.
And it's unfair to Spoelstra. It's unfair to those players. And this is why the people up top, they have to rip the scab off, dude. They have to rip the scab. By putting him back, you just disrupt everything again.
Wow. I'm going to use a different word, Orlando. I'm going to use delusional for this reason. There are 2 thoughts to this process. This is what you went through and personified, and I can understand that. But the Heat have always been delusional that, if we get in a playoff series, give us a punch of chance. So, Big O, this is what I want to say.
Sure.
Are the Heat delusional to the point that what they have seen in these last 3 games, again, even Sacramento, they certainly fought the good fight. But anyway, is the Heat thought, okay, let's take what we had in these last 3 games, and now you inject a 6-time All-Star in there. Does it lift it to another level? That's the delusion of it. Do the Heat say to themselves, Mickey Harrison, Pat Riley, Nick Harrison, Andy Ellisberg say, okay, we're now here. We're 3 games over 500. We've won 3 in a row. With Jimmy Butler, are we even better? Here's the weird part. In almost any other scenario, if I told you, Orlando Alzugaray, your team is playing well, and I'm going to put a 6-time All-Star back in there, as if Jimmy was coming off injury, you go, Ira, I'm really curious to see what happens next with this team. This is such an unusual situation. It might be the first time ever a team has said, 6-time All-Star? Let me think about that and get back to you.
Right, because it's a 6-time All-Star that isn't trying, that doesn't care. He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to be here. So if you don't want to be here, then why am I going to put somebody out there when I'm watching everyone that's starting and coming off the bench playing hungry and playing for each other, dude? I had fun, but again, I have a realistic approach to it. I've told you, I'm good with resetting. I'm good with taking a couple steps back and not being that good for the next year or 2 or something. I get it, dude. I understand. I'd rather you get your cap space. I'd rather you try to get picks. I'd rather you draft. Actually, if you can't even grab a bunch of picks and find a young star, I don't mind you guys drafting.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll find I think you'll hit on a star eventually. Actually, I really do. I think you'll nail on one in the draft, and the guy that's on the sidelines will develop his ass into a stud. I really feel that'll end up happening. I'd rather go down that path and turn the page already, but I guess they're not willing to tear that scab off.
I just think there's the delusion of, as good as we are, you add talent in there, you're better. We can control the talent. Like you've said, Orlando, they haven't controlled it this season. They haven't controlled it at times in previous seasons. Jimmy Butler is a highly talented 2-way player. And as I wrote in one of my Ask Ira questions today, the real issue for the Miami Heat this season, like we spoke about at the top of our Accurate Pembroke Pines report, they don't have enough 2-way players. They have Bam, a great defensive player. They have Tyler, a great offensive player. You go through this roster, they have Hayward, a defensive player. They don't have 2-way players. Jimmy Butler, at his best, at his engaged, is a great 2-way player. You win in this league with 2-way players. Right now, that's the problem. So they could use someone like Jimmy Butler from a basketball standpoint. But like you say, how crippling from a non-basketball standpoint is that going to be to the mix? That's where the Heat need to meet with a really good sports psychologist and figure that all out.
All right, wrap it up with this. So trade-wise, because all this other sabotage on his part, with other teams, and he's trying to just funnel it all to Phoenix, and yet Phoenix doesn't have anything to give back except Beal, and Beal still has to waive his no-trade clause, plus they don't want him here. So what are we looking at trade-wise? Because it just
there are 4 or 5 teams that Bradley Beal would waive his no-trade clause for. You have to work. Andy Ellisberg, like we speak every week about here, is as good as anyone, is finding all the pieces and making them work. There is, I know it's been reported otherwise, there are deals there for the Miami Heat. Are there the deals that they want? Are there the deals that in a typical situation you'd say, okay, this is equivalent? No. But if Big O and people like Big O feel that you can't stop picking at the scab and you have to remove the wound, there is at least something that the Heat can get in return to get rid of the problem and still start building to the future, whether it's draft choices or expiring contracts. There is an escape hatch here for the Miami Heat by the February 6th NBA trading deadline. Will we look at it and say that's not equivalent? Absolutely. Could we look at it and say it still puts the Heat in a better position than they are right now? Absolutely as well. There is a deal to be made. The Heat have to get off the stance that they're dealing with a 6-time former All-Star, and the Heat have to deal from a position of, yep, we're in a position of weakness. We wound up here. Let's salvage this situation. So I think there is a deal.
Okay, so but wait a minute. If you think there's a deal, which is the team of those 4 or 5 that you're hearing that could? And 2, the flip side of that, Jimmy apparently just wants to go to Phoenix. So will he disrupt that also?
I think Jimmy, as much as he wants to go to Phoenix, wants to go somewhere where they're going to pay him or where he can rebuild his value to earn it on the market. So I think there are multiple places. I also think the Heat have to take the approach of F it. If we find a partner who's willing to take a chance, this comes back to what happened to Kawhi Leonard in Toronto. The Raptors were a team desperate for relevance. They rented Kawhi for a season. They won their championship, and then he bolted for the Clippers. And you know what? The Raptors would do it again. The same thing for their one shining moment. So I think there could be a team like that. There are scenarios that he can get draft choices. There are scenarios that he can get expiring contracts. Whether you like the names of John Collins or Colin Sexton or Alonzo Ball, there are names out there that you could bring in with contracts with 1 or 2 years maximum on them that wouldn't impact the rebuilding you want going forward. You can flip players. You can get under the tax. There's creativity. Is it the kind of trade that you say Jimmy Butler resume against these resumes? No. But like you said, that ship has sailed.
What do you got going on in the Sentinel?
Well, besides being allergic to Jimmy Butler trade rumors, I wrote a story about how Josh Richardson is waiting in the wings. And the problem is Josh would have been the perfect answer when Jimmy was out. A two-way player at one point in his career. Not the same player, but he is working back. So I'm dealing with that. Waiting to hear from the Heat later about the experience in LA and what they're going through and what might come next. And sort of rolled my ass, Ira, like we've been talking about. Jimmy Butler's like a box of chocolates. I even ran the picture from Forrest Gump. You don't know what you're going to get when you reach in there. You can get something gooey and chewy and something that's satisfying, or else you can get one of those crappy cherry things that drips all over you. That's the problem. Jimmy Butler very much has been like a box of chocolates for the Miami Heat.
I would consider it more like, I don't know what it was, but did you ever watch the movie Flash Gordon?
Yes.
So when they go into the people in the trees, there's this one thing where they have to reach into the stump, and there's something there that might sting you. Yeah, that's kind of like, I don't know what that thing was called and all they did, but that's Jimmy Butler right there. You reach into that.
We will see. I'm telling you, Friday is going to be one of the most fascinating moments in the Miami Heat's 37 seasons. Really curious to see how that plays out, how the Heat set it up, how they handle it. I think it's going to be extraordinary theater against the Nuggets.
Did we understand Jimmy? Did he say he lost his joy or did he lose his Joy Taylor? All right, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Make sure you subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel for all of his coverage. Ira, we will catch up next week, my friend. Be safe.
Speechless.
Thank you, Ira. You got it. By the way, Acura Pembroke Pines, they got it going on. We were there on Friday. Yeah, Larry Schlossberg and the boys kicking some ass. Customer appreciation sales event going on right now. The ZDX, $449 a month right now, 0.9% financing for 72 months. The 2025 Integra, you could get it for $339 a month and 3.9% financing for 60 months. The RDX, that thing is a tank. My wife has been driving hers for now on the 15th year. It's amazing. Like, I would still be driving my TSX if I didn't total it. Okay, if it wasn't for my dumb ass, that car would have lasted forever. I mean, it's amazing. Acuras are awesome. Anyway, the RDX, you can get the 2025 for $399, 3.9% financing for 72 months. The MDX Tech 2025, we can take $10,000 off the MSRP. Go check it out. Our service center is second to none. Super comfortable. You can relax while they're changing your tires, rotating them, oil, whatever it is that you got to do to upkeep. Come on by, baby, at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. It is the finest dealership in the business, baby. It is Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.